In August 1999, when I was in kindergarten eating crayons, one of the earliest PS1 games to my memory was released. A gothic vampire story set in the world of Nosgoth. This franchise has been lost since the early 2000s, and at the time of making this video, we are heading to the game's 25th anniversary. 25 years since this game stole into my little heart. This game is the legacy of Cain, Soul Reaver. Developed by Crystal Dynamics, the makers of Tomb Raider, and published by Eidos, I remember first playing this on a demo disc. Looking around, I think it was what was called the Lighthouse Demo. I don't remember where or how I got it. My brother was the real owner of the PS1, so how it came to me is lost to me. We eventually, though, had the real thing. Earlier this year, I played Blood Omen, made by Silicon Knights. A confusing tale of legal issues led to Crystal Dynamics taking over the franchise and making Soul Reaver, out of the bones of another game called Shifter. I'm not going to delve into that, but I did just want to mention it. This game was not the original intent of Silicon Knights, but what we got was a great game nonetheless. It's been 25 years since I played Soul Reaver. Back then I was young and stupid and just liked killing vampires. This time I want to replay it with context from Blood Omen and my adult mind now able to comprehend it. Also, I want to kill vampires. Let's get started. First, I want to read an excerpt from the manual as it helps bridge the gap of Blood Omen and Soul Reaver. A millennium has passed since Lord Cain set this capital in the ruins of the Pillars of Nosgoth, and began his conquest of the world. His first act was to recruit a Kadare. Dipped into the underworld, Cain snared 6 souls and thus birthed his lieutenants, of which I, Raziel, was one. We, in turn, prowled to twilight the purgatory, building 6 legions of vampires to pillage Nosgoth. The destruction of the major human kingdoms was inevitable. Within 100 years, humanity has been thoroughly domesticated. To be sure, there remain some feral humans scattered across the hinterlands, clinging to their hopeless holy war to rid Nosgoth of the vampire scourge. They were tolerated. They made existence for the fledglings more challenging. After the taming of the humans, our real work began, shaping Nosgoth to our will. Around the pillars, slaves constructed a shrine worthy of our new age, worthy of our dark renaissance. Huge furnaces were built to belch smoke into the sky, shielding the land from the poisonous effects of the sun. Never had the world known a time of such beauty. However, we grew bored. We allowed the remains of the legions, the lesser vampires, to have their intrigues. They provided amusement and spice to an increasingly uninspired court. As faction fell against faction, we bet upon the outcome. We helped and foiled plots at our own whim. We were the council and Lord Cain, our only master. Nothing like smogging up the sky so vampires can walk outside like they're people or something. On screen is some other excerpts you might enjoy, but for now, let's actually play the game. Sit back and let's see if Soul Reaver still holds up after 25 years.
Cain is deified. The clans tell tales of him. Few know the truth. He was mortal once, as were we all. However, his contempt for humanity drove him to create me and my brethren. I am Raziel, firstborn of his lieutenants. I stood with Cain and my brethren at the dawn of the Empire. I have served him a millennium. Over time, we became less human and more divine. Cain would enter the state of change and emerge with a new gift. Some years after the Master, our evolution would follow. Until I had the honor of surpassing my lord. For my transgression, I earned a new kind of reward. was only one possible outcome. My eternal damnation. I, Raziel, was to suffer the fate of traitors and weaklings, to burn forever in the bowels of the Lake of the Dead. Cast him in. Tumbling, burning with white-hot fire, I plunged into the depths of the abyss. Unspeakable pain, relentless agony. Time ceased to exist. Only this torture and a deepening hatred of the hypocrisy that damned me to this hell. An eternity passed, and my torment receded, bringing me back from the precipice of madness. The descent had destroyed me, and yet I lived.
I know you, Raziel. You are worthy.
What madness is this? What pitiful form is this that I have come to inhabit? Death would be a release next to this travesty.
You did not survive the abyss, Raziel. I have only spared you from total dissolution.
I would choose oblivion over this existence.
The choice is not yours.
I am destroyed.
You are reborn. The birth of one of Cain's abominations traps the essence of life. It is this soul that animates the corpse you lived in. And that, Raziel, is the demise of Nosgoth. There is no balance. The souls of the dead remain trapped. I cannot spin them in the wheel of fate. They cannot complete their destinies. Redeem yourself. Or if you prefer, avenge yourself. Settle your dispute with Cain. Destroy him and your brethren. Free their souls and let the wheel of fate churn again. Use your hatred to reave their souls. I can make it possible. Become my Soul Reaver, my angel of death.
If you played Blood Omen, these voices will be super familiar, especially the Elder. That's straight up Mortanis. My favorite thing about this franchise is that the voice acting is superb, and the way they talk and describe things is just so poetic. So, Cain drowned Raziel for having a bigger dick, and now centuries later he's back with a vengeance, and without a jaw. His design is ugly, but cool at the same time. There's a charm about it, a charm that sends people running. We go through the tutorial, learning to jump and glide with our broken wings, re-kill some ghosts and suck them up. Eventually getting outside and learning to move into the material plane.
These portals are your conduit between the spectral and material realms. With their aid, you may gather matter and will yourself to become manifest in the physical world. This is taxing, however. Your strength must first be fully restored. You require no conduit to return to this plane. You may abandon your physical body at any time.
I assume this is where the shifter bits come from. Raziel is not a full vampire anymore and is a wraith, able to shift from material plane to the spectral plane. The areas change when you enter the spectral plane, so it is important to use to progress.
Sustain your strength to prolong your manifestation in the physical world. If you fail to feed or absorb too many wounds, this fragile matter will dissolve.
We eventually find our first victims.
What are these creatures?
Do you not recognize them? They are the children of your brother, Duma.
That's impossible. These foul, scuttling beasts could not be kin of our high blood.
Do you suppose that time stood still for you, Raziel? Much has changed since you passed from the world of men.
I knew my opponent's weaknesses, having suffered them myself. Physical wounds are fleeting. Vampire's immortal flesh begins to close as soon as it is cleaved. Vampires need only fear those wounds that impale or inflame. Water scorches like acid, and fledglings are devastated by sunlight's touch. I would have to modify my tactics to suit my foes.
These guys are just having a tasty snack, and Raziel came to box. His friend sits in the back refereeing. He even watches me eat.
Unfettered from the flesh, a creature's soul fades swiftly into the spectral realm. Draw it in quickly, Raziel, or you will be compelled to follow.
Then we have the other style of gameplay, a puzzle. Super simple. This game was made by the guys who made Tomb Raider, so a lot of these block puzzles from Tomb Raider kind of makes its way into Soul Reaver. It's usually really simple, usually just put them in the right spot so you can get to a ledge or to activate something.
The sanctuary of the clans reduced to ruin. Beyond these walls lay the pillars of Nosgoth, the seat of Kain's empire. How humble it now appeared, collapsing into the dust of its former magnificence. And yet, I had only just emerged. In the instant between my execution and resurrection, centuries had apparently passed.
This world is wrecked with cataclysms. The earth strains to shrug off the pestilence of Kain's parasitic empire. The fate of this world was preordained in an instant by a solitary man. Unwilling to martyr himself to restore Nosgoth's balance, Kain condemned the world to the decay you see. In that moment, the unraveling began. Now it is nearly played out. Nosgoth teeters on the brink of collapse. Its fragile balance cannot hold.
Blood Omen Kain chose the evil path, I see. I boxed this vampire for a little too long, and then I struggled with a rock. Moving on, I find our second gateway. There's a bunch of these around and it's our fast travel. In Blood Omen, Kain could just turn into a bat and go places. Though I do wonder who put these here. Then we make our way to the Lake of the Dead. Looks just a little bit different from the FMV.
This, at least, had remained constant. The endlessly swirling vortex of the abyss. My tomb and the womb of my rebirth. Though much of Nosgoth's landscape had changed, these cliffs gave me my bearings. My clan territory was to the west. I was anxious to see how my descendants had fared during the centuries of my absence.
Well, let's go see how the boys are doing. It's here that I learned that if you don't suck up the souls before retrieving the weapon, they just get back up. It's a nice touch. His friend is more than happy to watch me kill his buddy twice. And then we just go on a killing spree.
Utter desolation. My once proud kin wiped from this world like excrement from a boot. I knew the hand that wrought this deed.
What you probably noticed during my sneaking mission was a variant of the opening song Ozar Meridician. I hope I got that right. Anyway, since we are fighting Raziel's clan, I found it a nice touch, and it really hypes up the first area that we go through. The percussion is phenomenal.
No! Please!
I didn't recognize these flayed racks of flesh. Their scent was vampiric. They gnawed upon their victim's carcass like dogs.
We then enter Melchiah's domain, and his kin is a bit different, but they die the same. We also meet our first human, who shoots me with a crossbow like the disrespectful prick he is. I didn't realize until later, but if you don't kill this guy, or any other human, later the humans won't even hack you and they'll worship you.
This charnel house bore the unmistakable marks of Melchiah's clan. To what depths had our dynasty plummeted if these ghouls were the descendants of my high-born brother? Were they so debased as to recruit fledglings from the desiccated corpses here interred?
Which brings me to the combat design for a little bit. It's fun, if not repetitive. You just combo things and then you kill them various ways. But there's no reason to fight anything except that you can't get past it. There's no leveling, no loot, except souls, and later, as long as you don't get hit, you don't need those. But it's still fun to kill.
My brother Melchiah was made last, and therefore received the poorest portion of Cain's gift. Although immortal, his soul could not sustain the flesh, which retained much of its previous human frailty. This weakness, it seemed, was passed on to his offspring. Their fragile skins barely contained the underlying decay.
In other words, Melchiah got the ugly, and his skin got the ugly. We enter our first room where we have the spectral plane to progress forward, and are introduced to the Wraith.
Beware, Raziel. These wraiths are vampire spirits, fettered too long in the spectral realm. When their vampire natures adapt to this plane, they become eaters of souls. Do not allow these spirits to re-inhabit their corpses.
At this point, I'd like to mention this is the last enemy type in the spectral realm we will see. Other than the naked guys, we got wraiths. That's all. Enemy variety is not a strong suit. And since wraiths don't know Raziel can box, they get the big suck, just like the rest. After a few block puzzles, we meet our first brother, Melchiah.
Show yourself, creature!
Do you not recognize me, brother? Am I so changed?
Melchiah?
Yes, brother. You should have stayed where the Master sent you, Raziel. You will find Nosgoth less pleasant than you remember.
What has become of my clan? Answer me, little brother, or I will beat an answer from your horrid lips.
Everyone is afraid, sibling.
You awake to a world of fear. These times of change are so unsettling. Do you think I feel no revulsion for this form? Do you believe for a moment that our Lord would risk his empire upon an upstart inheritance?
Enough riddles. What are you saying?
You are the last to die.
Daddy didn't do him any favors, huh? Boss fights are cool in a way that it's not a boxing match. They are immune to Raziel's attacks. Instead, boss fights are more like puzzles. Here, we just drop the spikes of the gates down on him, and after enough impaling, he will go down. His ability is that he can bypass metal gates, but not ones already inside of him. So go all Vlad the Impaler on him and he's down.
Tell me, Melchiah, where can I find Cain?
The Master is beyond your reach, Raziel. He makes himself known when he sees fit, not when commanded. I am released.
You have done well, Raziel.
Am I reduced to this? A ghoul? A fratricide?
Elevated, Raziel, not reduced. Consuming Melchiah's soul has endowed you with a new gift. Insubstantial barriers such as these are no impediment to you in the spectral realm. Will yourself to pass through, and you shall.
Raz can no longer be jailed. Also, who just has whatever the fuck this is around?
Return to the sanctuary of the clans, Raziel. Melchiah's soul has endowed you with the means to gain entry. Beware, however. This hollow derelict is abandoned, but not uninhabited.
Now on to see Cain with our newfound powers. He's actually just chilling at the pillars, or the sanctuary of the clans.
Raziel. Cain.
The Abyss has been unkind.
I am your creation, Cain. Now, as before, you criticize your own work. What have you done with my clan, degenerate? You have no right. What I have made, I can also destroy, child.
Damn you, Cain! You are not God! This act of genocide is unconscionable! Conscience? You dare to speak to me of conscience? Only when you have felt the full gravity of choice should you dare question my judgment. Your lifespan is a flicker compared to the mass of doubt and regret that I have borne since Mortanius first turned me from the light. To know that the fate of the world hangs dependent on the advisedness of my every deed? Can you even begin to conceive what action you would take in my position?
I would choose integrity, Cain.
Look around you, Raziel. See what has become of our empire. Witness the end of an age. The clans scattered to the corners of Nosgoth.
This place has outlasted its usefulness.
As have you.
The Soul Reaver, Kain's ancient blade, older than any of us and 1,000 times more deadly. The legends claimed that the blade was possessed and thrived by devouring the souls of its victims. For all our bravado, we knew what it meant when Kain drew the Soul Reaver in anger. It meant you were dead.
Anyone else here heard when he laughed that sounded exactly the same as the Blood Omen laugh during combos? Oh, right, boss fight. Okay, I lied earlier. When we fight Kain, we box him. But he takes just 3 hits, since he's just a little bitch the whole time and he just teleports around. He never actually swings Soul Reaver.
The blade is vanquished, so it unfolds, and we are a step closer to our destinies.
I swore I saw a glint of satisfaction in Kain's eye when the Soul Reaver was destroyed. I did not understand the game that Kain was playing, but I knew the finishing move.
From this moment and ever afterward, you and this blade are inextricably bound. Soul Reaver and Reaver of Souls, your destinies are intertwined. By destroying the sword, you have liberated it from its corporeal prison and restored it to its true form, a wraith blade, its energy unbound. No longer a physical blade, it can only manifest itself in the material realm when your strength is fully restored. Once manifest, it will sustain you.
What are you, little soul? Another of Kain's creatures come to taunt this bound specter.
I did not intend to disturb your rest.
Rest. A body is needed for sleep. Flesh and bones are required to recline. No, child. All I may do is watch and remember, ceaselessly conscious as this wretched world's history unfurls. Ghastly past, insufferable future, are they one and the same? Am I always here?
How have you come to haunt these pillars?
Kain refused the sacrifice. The Pillar of Balance, corrupted to its core, stands as a monument to his blind ambition. Now these pillars serve only to bind me here, my prison and eternal home, thanks to the avarice of your master, Kain.
That bastard can claim no allegiance from me.
Then we share a common foe, Raziel. Return here when you have need. Ariel remembers what others have forgotten.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack. And I have questions. Why did the sword break? Is it because Raziel has hands of steel? Because he's a wraith? What gives? Also, Kain could just dunk on us at any time. It's nice to see Ariel again in the PS1 graphics, half face and all.
You are my queen.
Far in the eastern mountains, a stifled titan stands in mute surrender, unwilling host to a parasitic swarm.
So, for our next destination, I ask you, do you like spiders? What about spider vampires? Look at that guy. Just a creeping. But they die like the rest.
Once a testament to mankind's defiance of Cain's empire, this towering cathedral now stood derelict. The humans who worshipped here, dead for centuries. Its architects conceived this tower as a holy weapon against the vampire menace, a colossal instrument of brass and stone. The cathedral's pipes, once tuned to blast a deadly hymn, now stood silent, and these vacant spaces whistled their impotence.
Lots of jumping around and pipe puzzles. It's quite a big area, actually. This area probably took me the longest, with all the box puzzles and the enemies harassing you while you're doing said box puzzles, and there are humans here with kukris? And the puzzles are all about letting sound off to break the glass to wait? To let the fan be a fan and blow. Again, who makes this shit? Time for our second brother, Zephon.
Prodigal son. There is no returning for you, Raziel.
Zephon, your visage becomes you. It's an appropriate reflection of your soul.
And you are not his handsome Raziel anymore. His precious firstborn son turned betrayer. You have missed so many changes, little Raziel. Look around you. See how the human's weapon of destruction has become my home. Indeed, my body. A cocoon of brick and granite from which to watch a pupating world.
A crevice in which to cower, only scuttling from the shadows to devour a victim already ensnared in your cowardly trap. But you've made the mistake of leaving me unbound, and it is you who must succumb to my will.
Will, instinct, reflex action. The insect mind finds little difference. I warn you, brother. As my stature has grown, so it is matched by my appetite. Step forward, morsel.
Zephon is one of the cooler boss fights, actually requiring a bit of attacking and dodging. He hits like a truck too. In fact, he's the only boss to send me to the spectral realm through damage, but there's race ready to get the big suck. The puzzle to this fight is to break his claws when they come down so he spits out an egg. Then you take his unborn child and you set it on fire and you throw it at him to inflict emotional damage. After 3 times, he goes down. Man, I miss when boss fights was just 3 hits and go.
Consuming Zephon's apostate soul has bestowed on you a new gift. Like his vampire spawn, you are able to scale certain walls which are otherwise impassable, but only in the physical realm. In the spirit world, these insubstantial edifices will not support you. In the mountains beyond the pillars, Nosgoth's cataclysms have exposed an ancient crime. Endowed with Zephon's soul, you may now progress where your path was hitherto impeded.
Now, just like his children, we can make like a spider and climb walls. These are little walls we have seen throughout the game, but couldn't climb. At this point, I haven't mentioned, but with the new abilities from our brothers, we can go to optional areas and get new powers and even health increases. This is the video gaming stuff that I miss nowadays. Secrets that you see lying around that you know you can't grab yet, kinda like a Metroidvania. But the game doesn't tell you about them. It's stuff you notice on your own and realize later, I can go back and get that once you get the power. One of the first health increases is literally right beside the first time you exit the spectral realm, a little wall that you can't climb, but when you first see it, you kinda know something's off. You notice all these blank spaces? They might as well be, but they are slots for glyphs or powers that can be found in the game. Most of them kind of suck and use Elder's energy, or mana I'd call it. I got them all, but I honestly never used them that much. One of the first optional areas I found was in the Raptor's Keep. Sound familiar? I wanted to mention this one because this is one of the only places that I noted from Blood Omen 1. It's got the big skull and all, and there's nothing here but some platforming, some enemies to stab, and a cool block puzzle that ends with a glyph that we can pretty much ignore.
Once acquired, these glyphs empower you with elemental lore. Each spell exacts a sacrifice of energy, however. Use them sparingly and wisely.
There's force, water, fire, sunlight, stone, and sound. And looking at the wiki, it seems there was content with associated Reaver enhancements, even a spirit glyph to get from a cut territory. They feel cut for sure, as everything except sunlight and fire is kind of a waste of time it feels like, though when casting them, you at least get iframes. Continuing back to the pillars, we climb the now climbable wall, get some dunks on, and visit the tomb of the Seraphim.
The ancient tomb of the Seraphim, once impenetrably sealed, now ravaged by Nosgoth's upheavals, its mysteries lay exposed. In the time of Vorador, centuries before Cain was made, the Seraphim warrior priests waged a merciless war against the vampire tribes of Nosgoth. Emboldened by righteousness, they committed unspeakable and indiscriminate acts of violence, massacring fledglings and ancients alike. They decimated entire bloodlines in mere decades. Now, their husks lay here, murderers enshrined.
The Seraphim was kind of dicks, huh? I find some homeless guys in the spirit world and give them the big suck and find a single block to unearth the tomb for a big revelation.
As I pulled the stone free, a sigh of sepulchral air escaped the inner chamber. I was not prepared for what lay beyond this threshold. These crypts, defiled caskets of Seraphim saints, bearing my brothers' names and my own. The irony of Cain's blasphemous act rushed in on me with the crushing force of revelation. Were my hands not as bloody as these? Worse, I had spilled the blood of my brothers, these very comrades whose tombs lay ravaged before me.
Yes, Raziel, you were a Seraphim, born of the same force that all but destroyed your race. Before the dawn of the Empire, you were chosen. Cain, Nosgoth's solitary self-declared monarch, plundered this tomb and raised you from these crypts. Breathing his vampiric gift into your defiled corpses, he resurrected you as his favored sons.
All those war crimes he was talking about? Yeah, that was Raziel. Mini boss time?
Heretic, you shall not pass.
Such loyalty to one who has you guarding this outpost like a chained dog. Do you prosper on the scraps he casts you?
Your insults
will do nothing to blunt the agonies of your demise.
Cain killed me once. Behold the result. I have no more to fear from you.
Not really a boss. This guy's just a new enemy type, but gives us a new ability when we go Iron Mike on him and then show him the nutritious value of water.
And that's what I call high quality H2O.
This relic has infused you with the power to compress and manipulate space. As your symbiotic weapon, the Soul Reaver is also thus enhanced. You may focus and project an orb of kinetic energy to strike objects that are otherwise beyond your reach.
In English, Raziel got a Glock. We can shoot now to push blocks and enemies from afar, adding a bit more to the puzzles and combat. After some platforming, we find the same enemy again and get into another boxing match. Then we push some blocks, give some naked homeless guys the big suck, and we finally get to the drowned abbey.
Once a sanctuary against the vampire menace, this abbey has been drowned by the deluge spilling from this wounded land. Your brother Rahab and his brood, devastated even by the feeble rays of Nosgoth's sun, overcame their vulnerability to water and retreated from the surface. Now they haunt these ruins and glide in the darkness of its stagnant depths.
I really just love hearing the Elder describe areas. In fact, just the dialogue in general is my favorite thing about this game. So now we got fish vampires who understand the nutritional value of H2O and even spit at us like they are the Haktua girl. I get a rusty spoon for defense and begin the platforming. It's important here due to the water still able to fuck me up. It's a nice change of pace from block puzzles. I really like that the enemies have finally changed in ability and in design, including their death sounds. I do eventually have to unalive myself in the water to go rushing on the naked guys for more platforming. After the hallway battle of 1583, I fuck up the next platforming area and drown, so now I gotta do it all over again. Anyways, without the help of a guide, I wouldn't have known to pull this chain to piss off the Nair so we can go to our next boss fight, Rahab.
Raziel.
Rahab, you have adapted well to your environment, for one so maladjusted.
Do not mock me, Raziel. You of all of us should respect the power bestowed by a limitation overcome. Cain said you would come.
You speak with the murderer?
You would do well to mind your blasphemous tongue.
What more did he tell you?
That you would destroy me.
I will indeed. But tell me, before I tear your soul from its moorings, do you know what we were before Cain spawned us?
Human.
Seraphan, Rahab. The antithesis of all we ever believed.
Does it matter? We were lost. He saved us.
Saved us? From what?
From ourselves.
So, Rahab likes being a fish. This is another puzzle fight where Rahab just spits at you to knock you off the pillar to teach Raziel about H2O. But I don't need his help. I cannonball into the water myself plenty of times and have to climb the pillars with shame every time. Anyways, the fight is just try not to drown while shooting the glass around the room to let in some sunlight to cook the old fish.
Now that's what I call high quality H2O.
Infused with Rahab's soul, you have overcome your former vulnerability to water's touch. Immersion in water will no longer dissolve your physical body, enabling you to swim to areas heretofore beyond your reach.
Now we can backtrack to more areas. I'm not going to go over all of it, I'm just going to gloss over it. But now we can swim and get new glyphs and even the Fire Reaver hidden under the Abbey.
This elemental forge is tuned to the Soul Reaver's energy. Once baptized in this primordial flame, the blade may be imbued with fire at any future time. Beyond the maelstrom of the abyss, a subterranean tunnel leads northward to the clan territory of your brother Dumas. Endowed with Rahab's soul, you may swim to gain entry, where your progress was previously impeded.
We got one more brother to go before Cain. I take this time to go grab everything I've missed, maxing out my health and increasing my Eldritch energy and getting the glyphs. Finding the lighthouse area with the sunlight glyph, the only good glyph besides fire. There's this puzzle back at the cathedral with this golden stick where you gotta platform and toss it while swapping realms to get around and use it to smack a big bell at the end for another useless glyph. The Fire Reaver is really cool to set enemies on fire, of course. We cross the Lake of the Dead to also find the human citadel. Again, if I wasn't a serial killer, these guys would be bowing to me like the god I am. But here we can get the water glyph and health upgrades. Then I go get the fire glyph and I'm done. Let's finish this shit. Next on my shit list is Dumas, and he likes it cold. We're gonna fix that.
This city once teemed with the life of my kind. Could it be that other clans had suffered the same fate as mine? In his madness, could Cain spare none of his brood?
It was not Cain, but Dumas' own arrogance that brought the downfall of his clan. These are human weapons, Raziel. Believing themselves invincible, Dumas and his offspring failed to see an attack coming from the least likely assailants. Complacent in their arrogance, they were taken by surprise, allowing the human vampire hunters to decimate their ranks with little resistance. The few that escaped have been reduced to scavengers.
Dumas was a bitch is what the elder just said. We use everything we learned from shoving blocks from range to realm swapping the platform until we get to the toughest block puzzle. Essentially, we gotta take the blocks and shove them over to the other side to make stairs to climb. Even with a guide to give me the hint, it was still kind of tough to piece together, but it was super fun. Simple in concept, but a brain whacker if you're not really sure what's going on. We find this big machine room that's basically a gas stove that we use to look cool and blow a door open, somehow. But next, Duma.
My brother, Duma, a powerful warrior in life. It would have burned with shame to have me find him here like a stuck pig.
Someone went Vlad on Duma, so we help a brother out.
Unbound at last. I thank you, brother.
Your thanks are premature, Duma. I have not forgotten whose hands bore me into the abyss.
The centuries in Limbo have honed my strength. Not even Cain is my equal.
Even the strongest vampire is vulnerable.
We shall test your thesis, Raziel.
My bloodthirst has been superseded by an even darker hunger. I will consume your soul before this day is done.
This dude legit just said he got stronger sitting around like a pincushion. This fight kinda sucks. We can't box him cause he's shrunk. Remember when I said that he likes it cold? And the stove from earlier? This fight is just kite him back to that room and cook him. He shakes the ground to stop you while you're trying to, and if you go too far, he will stop chasing you. It's just kind of annoying.
Consuming Duma's soul empowers you to wind a constricting band of spectral energy around your enemies. This energy manifests itself in both the spectral and material realms, and in the physical world, it can be employed to manipulate otherwise immovable objects.
A new ability, and the last. It's kinda shit. Not worth doing on enemies, it's solely for use in the final area to move objects for puzzles.
In the furthermost canyon of Nosgoth's frozen wastes, the hushed silences embrace an ancient enigma. In the bowels of this labyrinth, your master awaits.
And now it's time to face Cain. I visit Ariel one more time for any lore.
In the bowels of an inverted clockwork, the tormentor awaits. Be wary, Raziel. Those blind with rage are by destiny ensnared.
Onward, we enter the Oracle Caves, another area from Blood Omen. It's just a string of cool puzzles and the mini-boss from earlier showing up as the only enemy, who we purged with Righteous Fury. And this is the new ability. It turns things.
This, I deduced, must be the man himself, the time streamer, Mobius. He seemed not at all the impressive figure I had imagined from Cain's boasted exploits. And yet, even this cold image radiated a certain undeniable power.
Hey, another Blood Omen character. We get there when we get there. After a light puzzle and a door puzzle that took me way too long. And one last block puzzle, we hit the final string of cutscenes. Raziel is shown scenes we have seen before, wondering if it's all been foretold, and we see what I assume is cut content, a Light Reaver and a Dark Reaver.
My arrival in this miserable age. What trickery is this?
It is no illusion, Raziel, but a glimpse into the currents of time itself.
These apparitions torment me. Has this all been foretold? Impossible! This must be one of Cain's deceptions. My mind reels with conflict. Does Cain await me moments from now? Or in some century yet to come? This cannot be. What madness does this scene portend? Cain must think me credulous to suffer these lies. Is this phantasm a conjuration of my mind, or an echo of future events?
After all that, we head for the final battle.
At last. I must say I'm disappointed in your progress. I imagined you'd be here sooner.
Sooner, Cain, you knew what was gonna happen. I wouldn't have been late if it wasn't for all them damn block puzzles and whatever that fucking door was.
Tell me, did it trouble you to murder your brothers?
Did it trouble you when you ordered me into the abyss?
No. I had faith in you. In your ability to hate. In your self-righteous indignation.
Lies. You cannot have foreseen all of this.
Eternity is relentless, Raziel. When I first stole into this chamber centuries ago, I did not fathom the true power of knowledge. To know the future, Raziel. To see its paths and streams tracing out into the infinite. As a man, I could never have contained such forbidden truths. But each of us is so much more than we once were. Gazing out across the plains of possibility, do you not feel with all your soul how we have become like gods? And as such, are we not indivisible? As long as a single one of us stands, we are legion. And that is why, when I must sacrifice my children to the void, I can do so with a clear heart.
Very poetic, Cain. But in the end, you offer no more than a convenient rationalization for your crimes.
These chambers offer insight for those patient enough to look. In your haste to find me, perhaps you have not gazed deeply enough. Our futures are predestined. Mobius foretold mine a millennium ago. We each play out the parts fate has written for us. We are compelled ineluctably down preordained paths. Free will is an illusion.
I have been to the tomb of Seraphan Cain. Your dirty secret is exposed. How could you transform a Seraphan priest into a vampire?
How could I not? One must keep his friends close, Raziel, and his enemies even closer. Can you grasp the absurd beauty of the paradox? We're the same. Seraphan and vampire. With our holy wars, our obsession with Nosgoth's domination, who better to serve me than those whose passion transcends all notions of good and evil?
I will not applaud your clever blasphemy. The Seraphan were saviors, defending Nosgoth from the corruption that we represent. My eyes are opened, Cain. I find no nobility in the unlife you rudely forced on my unwilling corpse.
You may have uncovered your past, but you know nothing of it. You think the Seraphan were noble, altruistic? Don't be simple. Their agenda was the same as ours.
You are lost in a maze of moral relativism, Cain. These apparitions and portents. What game are you playing now?
Destiny is a game, is it not? And now, you await my latest move.
Exactly like before, we gotta hit Cain 3 times. Each time he gets further and further away. If it wasn't for my health upgrades, he'd one-shot me. But we can also go to the middle of the room and fully heal. It's not a great fight. It feels more like it's trying to be cinematic. Each hit causing Cain to teleport and activate parts of the time streamer. The last one being the hardest due to being so far. I get him to keep reappearing at the same area, and I'm ready for him.
You nearly had me, Raziel. But this is not where or how it ends. Fate promises more twists before this drama unfolds completely.
Be warned, Raziel. Once you cross this threshold, you are beyond my influence.
Raziel, Redeemer and Destroyer, Pawn and Messiah, welcome, time-span soul. Welcome to your destiny. Where time is but a loop, a loose stitch in the universal cloth, a streamer might seize upon a chance, a fatal slip, and plunge the fate of planets into chaos.
And that's Soul Reaver 1. From what I gathered, that ending was not liked, and I gotta say, it is a blue baller for sure. You can feel they wanted to do more and it got cut, but still, it was a very enjoyable game. I played this as a kid and it felt so much bigger, but playing it as an adult now, I realize how small the world actually is. It took me about 13 hours to beat, which is pretty good considering I 100%ed it. Unlike Blood Omen, I was left wanting more, and I'm already on the way and working on Soul Reaver 2. My final thoughts? It holds up. The puzzles and combat is fun, and the voice acting really carries for a game from '99 where voice acting wasn't big yet. The story is gripping for a time paradox story as well. Also, the music is done so incredibly well. Ozar Meridicium is a piece that is stuck in my soul to this day. It's the most recognizable piece in this entire legacy, and the different motifs of the boss fights carry over to each other and vary. It's a fun atmospheric game from when vampires was fucking cool. I give it a
Damn you, Cain!
out of 10. I hope you enjoyed this long ass video and reliving my childhood with me. The 25th anniversary has passed now, and a prequel comic is getting made. Go check it out and yell at them to do a remaster. Anyways, that's all for now.
Fate promises more twists before this drama unfolds completely.